news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 FM.
And
good afternoon and welcome to your main newscast right here on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. In our headlines, new oil contract should allow periodic return to negotiation table, according to oil expert. Liza 2 may dump up to 3 times more produced water than Liza 1, according to the EIA. Patterson gifted $500K in gold jewelry from taxpayers' dollars, document shows. Despite possible side effects, local content medicine specialists make strong case for COVID-19 vaccine. And multi-billion gas ashore project is all craziness, according to Raman Gaskin. Meanwhile, Gary Best's lawyers want court to dismiss DUI charges. Get the details of these stories and much more when the news returns.
Digicel Prime Bundles just got better with 3 new apps. Watch more with Playglow. Share more with Sportsmax. Read more news with Loop. Listen more with D-Music. Plus extra data. It's simply more bundled together. 51 gigabytes for 7 days for only $2,000. Live the experience with Digicel. Activate today on the My Digicel app.
Welcome back and thank you for joining us. University of Houston instructor Tom Mitchell is of the view that the future petroleum agreements should include features which allow periodic review of the contract terms. This Mitchell gave among several recommendations when beckoned for advice on the review of the Kanji and Kaieteur blocks contracts in the event that commercial discoveries are made there. This particular recommendations regards a strict provisions of the Stabroek Block Production Sharing Agreement signed by former Minister of Natural Resources Raphael Trotman, called the Stability Clause. In advocating against such a strict clause, Mitchell said, and I quote, "The world changes dramatically in 4 or 5 years, and the contract may not be the same, actually may not still be relevant or as in 2025 or 2026, end quote. Moving on with your news, sticking on oil. Exxon's Liza Phase 2 development operation may have been approved to dump produced water at 3 times the discharge rate of the current producing Liza Phase 1 operations. According to the Liza Phase 2 environmental impact assessment approved by the former David Granger administration, the company will be dumping up to 3,000 barrels of produced water into the ocean every day. This is 3 times the discharge rate of 100,000 barrels per day listed in the EIO of the current Liza Phase 1 production operations, where ExxonMobil has polluted Guyana's ocean for 13 months thus far. As Guyanese companies and citizens move with growing global efforts to protect the natural environment, this aspect of Exxon's offshore operations sees Guyana moving in the opposite direction. And moving on, a document from the Demerara Harbour Bridge Corporation and the Garden of Eden asphalt plant shows former Minister of Public Infrastructure David Patterson had received a birthday gift totaling some $500,000. According to the document on May 2, 2017, a requisition to purchase was placed with King's Jewelry World to acquire a one-hand band at the cost of $424,000 and one tie pin at $76,000. These items, the document reveals, were purchased as birthday gifts for Patterson, but it is unclear whether he received the same. Kaieteur Radio made attempts to reach out to Patterson, who is now the chairman of the Parliament Public Accounts Committee, to confirm these details, and those efforts proved futile. You're listening to us right here on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. Still to come, despite possible side effects, local emergency medicine specialists makes strong case for COVID-19 vaccine. Multi-billion gas ashore project is all craziness, according to Raymond Gaskin. And meanwhile, Gary Best lawyers wants court to dismiss DUI charge. And Region 4 records 10 of 23 new COVID-19 cases in our COVID update. Stay with us right here on Kaieteur Radio.
A lot has happened since oil was discovered in 2015. The petroleum industry is an ever-changing web of oil, gas, politics, and money. It gets complicated sometimes, but we can bring you all the latest developments and include you in the discussions here on Kaieteur Radio. So tune in to 99.1 or 99.5 FM every Tuesday night at 20 hours for Petroleum 101 with me, your host, Kamal King. Kaieteur Radio, the radio with a difference.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Before we continue with the second half of our news, let me bring to you today's front page comment titled, Be Aware Guyana, Stay Focused. We learn that one of the Fortune 500 powerhouses is relocating its headquarters to Guyana. Companies at the level only do so when the prospects for profits are very high and assured many more will come. We are in favor of such presence that are about production and development of these economy and society. Yet, as we share this with our readers, we point to other things and call upon the Guyanese brothers and sisters to pay attention, to focus continuously on what is going on with the oil of ours. This oil belongs to us, not the PPP politicians or the opposition politicians and their respective cliques and circles of friends and families. Every square inch of this land and water is owned by citizens of this country, all of them. It is their assets, their property, their blessings, which should be organized and maximized for the benefits of all Guyanese, citizens first and foremost. To repeat, this wealth is not the plating of Guyanese political leaders. It is not theirs to do as they feel like, for whatever purpose they have in mind, which they refuse to share with a hopeful, trusting nation. Fellow Guyanese, the politicians are doing the things that are against our interests, that will not benefit us as it should. Fellow Guyanese, we have to stand up for what is ours, what is our right, what is our fair and just. We must hold our political leaders, both PPP government and the coalition opposition, to the strictest accounting. They do not want that and shy away from such fires to which we at this paper and radio station hold their feet. We must take them uncomfortable we must make them uncomfortable, unsettled, and unhappy. We must speak up and keep the pressure on them to get the most out of this oil for us and to share the whole story of it with us. Fellow citizens, if we do not speak up and take a stand, we'll pay a high price based on bad choices and decisions. They will deceive us and cheat us as they did in the past. You can read the front page comment for yourself by picking up a copy of the Kaieteur News or head across to our website at kaieteurnewsonline.com. Moving on, in our second half of our newscast, we tell you now that vaccines are being touted as the primary method to rein in the COVID-19 pandemic. Moreover, at least 80% of the population will have to be vaccinated in order for this goal to be achieved. At least, this is the theory being pursued by local emergency medicine specialist Dr. Zulfikar Box. But even as Guyana awaits the arrival of the COVID-19 vaccine, there are some who are convinced that the vaccine can cause more harm than good. Dr. Box is, however, urgent that persons give the vaccines, once they arrive, a fighting chance. At the moment, there are several vaccines that are in the clinical trials, and according to Dr. Box, once these trials are completed, they are presented to a panel of experts who review them and decide whether they are ready for use. And a comment from Raymond Gaskin, when asked to share his thoughts on the multi-billion gas ashore project set to land at Wales, transparency and advocate and economist Raymond Gaskin said that the entire development is quote-unquote all craziness. Gaskin premised his stance on his belief that the project is simply not economically feasible. Gaskin observed that the government is yet to publicize the analysis it had conducted to support the project. Notably, preliminary reports that were done by the previous administration on the feasibility of bringing gas to shore from the Liza Phase 1 project reveal that an offshore pipeline is estimated to cost between $165 million and $270 million to build, depending on the size and landing site location. The attorneys of former GDF Chief of Staff Gary Best are asking the court to dismiss the driving under the influence charge against him. This request comes more than a month after Best walks free for causing the death of national cyclist Jude Bentley by dangerous driving. The DUI matter is being heard in the Georgetown Magistrates Court before Senior Magistrate Clive Nurse in the Traffic Court. In their no-case submission to the court, the lawyers contended that the prosecution failed to provide sufficient evidence to prove the elements of the charge to charge their client. And moving on, police are currently investigating the murder of a man in Berbice. The suspect, who is currently in custody, is said to be the dead man's neighbor. Dead is 40-year-old Mark Griffith, a laborer of Smithfield, New Amsterdam, Berbice. Reports suggest that the murder occurred at around 17 hours 10 Sunday last. Based on information provided by police, Griffith was consuming alcohol throughout the day with his neighbor. An argument reportedly erupted between them, and upon observing that his friend had a cutlass in his hands, Griffith's sisters told them to stop, and they did. However, around 17 hours 10, Griffith was found lying in a trench. Blood was reportedly flowing from a wound to his chest. And finally, at this time in your COVID-19 updates, 10 of the country's 23 new COVID-19 cases were recorded in Region 4 yesterday. The remaining cases are distributed among Regions 1, 3, 5, and 10. The total number of confirmed cases has increased to 6,931. Further, there are 4 persons in the COVID-19 ICU, 33 in institutional isolation, 551 in home isolation, and 19 in institutional quarantine. The COVID-19 death toll remains at 170, while 8 new recoveries were recorded. This has brought the total number of recoveries to 6,173. And just before we go, let's bring to you a recap of our top stories this afternoon. And let's remind you that you can continue to listen to us right here on Kaieteur Radio throughout the day as we continue to bring to you your hourly updates right here on the radio. It's a difference. In our headlines this afternoon, Raymond Gaskin says multi-billion gas to shore project is quote-unquote all craziness. New oil contract should be subject to review on a regular basis, according to oil expert. CJ throws out elections petition case over failure to serve Granger on time and orders GCAM to hand over SOPs in second matter. Former Minister Patterson was gifted $500K in gold jewelry from taxpayers' dollars, document shows. And despite possible side effects, local emergency medicine specialists make strong case for COVID-19 vaccine. Meanwhile, inmate stabs murder convict for grabbing his buttocks. Pensioner dies in Commons Lodge fire. Amerindian Ministry failed to balance APF bank accounts since 2009, according to the AG report. And the Liza 2 will receive 3 times more toxic water than the Liza 1 EIA shows. And we encourage you to pick up a copy and read today's front page comment titled, "Be Aware, Guyana, Stay Focused." You can get the full details of these stories and much more by picking up a copy of the Kaieteur News at a newsstand near you, or feel free to head across to our website at kaieteurnewsonline.com. I am Joshua Van Sleckman. Thank you for joining us. Have a great remainder of your Tuesday afternoon.
Want value for your advertising dollar?